And welcome. Happy 2025, my friends. It is January, and here we are. Welcome to me, Mom and Dad. So glad to be doing a podcast in 2025. Hope everybody rang in the new year um, in good spirits. Yes, our country did have a little bad things happen in New Orleans, but I know we all are praying for all the loved ones who lost their lives, and we're just praying for our country that we be safe and acknowledge the people that we lost. And let's get started with 2025. Me, Mom and Dad, those of you who have been listening to our podcast, we thank you. We've been doing it for some years now. I always like to go over with new people joining us. We started this podcast, of course, me, Tia, and my mom and dad, Harold and Gloria. We started it when my dad he got diagnosed with Parkinson's years ago, and of course, it was not always pretty, but we did find out some wonderful things. How he lived mostly a fruitful life with Parkinson's, and so we started a podcast sharing the things that we learned, my mom and dad and I, my mom, dad, and me, and how, well, all the good things that we learned and the challenging things too. So I always like to share on the podcast new things that we learned. My dad did pass away 3, 4 years ago. It wasn't because of Parkinson's or anything. He was 88 and he lived a good amount of years. And so we continue the podcast, me, my family members, and we also share recipes and good humor and fun and laughter and joy too on this podcast. And on that note, let's start with one of our recipes. Folks tell me they love the recipes. So, because it is winter, I always like to bring back the real favorite recipes that people like and share them with new people. So let's start with potato soup. All right, here's the ingredients, my friend. Potato soup. You will need 3.5 cups of peeled and diced potatoes. By the way, one of my high school friends turned me on to this potato peeler. I don't know why there's not commercials about it, but you can find it on Amazon. It is, you put the potato in this thing on like a pick thing, and this thing goes around the potato. You know, you see these commercials and those gadgets, you know, they don't work. One of my high school alumni friends, she put a video of it, and I was like, I'm going to get one. Wonder if it really does work. She swore by it, and it is so good. She was like, peeled and diced potatoes, 1/3 cup of diced celery, 1/3 cup of finely chopped onion, 3/4 cup diced cooked ham. I don't really use the ham. I use bacon. So you can choose to use the ham. I fry up some bacon, and at the end I chop the bacon up into little bits. So I'll tell you what I do with that at the end. But if you want to use the diced ham, go ahead. 3/4 cup of diced ham, it says. I use about a couple of four pieces of bacon, crisp it up, chop them up. 3 and 1/4 cup of water, 2 tablespoons of chicken bouillon. I use the bouillon cubes, you know, in the pack, and you crush them up, put them in the water. That's what that means, yeah. Three tablespoons of chicken bouillon cubes. Yeah. So you boil up that chicken bouillon and you pour that in the, that's going to go in the cups of water. half teaspoon of salt or to taste, 1 teaspoon of ground white or black pepper. I use black pepper. 5 tablespoons of butter, 5 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, 2 cups of milk, and I use whole milk. Yeah, if you want to use the since we're in January, we're trying to cut back, huh? 2%. But when I'm making potato soup, I use whole milk. So you combine the potatoes, celery, onion, and your ham if you're using that. If you're not using ham, then you will skip the ham. And water in the pot. And then you're gonna put your bouillon cubes in that water. Bring to a boil. Cover medium heat until potatoes are tender, about 10 to 15 minutes. Stir. It says stir in the chicken bouillon, but I already told you to put in the chicken bouillon in that water. Stir it all up, the chicken bouillon and the potatoes. Put a top on the potatoes, about 10 or 15 minutes for the potatoes to be tender. In a separate saucepan, melt butter over medium-low heat. Whisk in flour with a fork. Make sure, whisk it in that butter, the flour, the lumps should go away. Stirring constantly until thick. That flour will get thicker and thicker, about 1 minute. Slowly stir in your milk. Make sure there's no lumps, so keep, whisking in that milk until the milk has been until there's no lumps. Keep adding that milk. Continue stirring over medium heat until thick, about 4 to 5 minutes. Stir the milk mixture into the potatoes and the chicken bouillon stock. Cook soup until heated through. Like if you're going to serve it, immediately to dinner. So let it boil up like about on low heat, about 5 minutes. And that's when I serve the soup in the bowls, I take my crispy bacon bits. Excuse me. And I put the bacon bits right in the middle on the top of the soup. And sometimes you can put a pinch of mozzarella cheese. Yummy. You're welcome. Hey, I'm adding something new. Since it is 2020 and 2025, I didn't mean 2020. I just didn't finish my sentence. I'm going to add a joke of the day. We could all use a little laughter, right? And in my entertaining days, I always told a few jokes. So I'm going to add a joke of the day. These are very corny, but you'll find them a little bit funny. Okay, you can take them. These are little jokes. Joke of the day 2025. Let us laugh. Okay, ready? Here it is. First one. I'm going to do 3. Why did the cell phone get glasses? Pause. Because she lost all her contacts. Pa-chick-chow! I need a cymbal crash. Pa-chick-chow! I know. Come on, that was a little funny. 2025, let's bring it on. Next one. Question. How did the mobile phone propose to his girlfriend? You're thinking. He gave her a ring. Pa-ta-tow! You're going to use these jokes. You know you are. Okay, last one. Question. What's the most popular video game at the bread bakery? What is the most popular video game at the bread bakery? You're thinking. The answer is Need for Speed. You're welcome. I usually do 3 recipes, so let's do another recipe. I know you're laughing at those jokes. Okay, let's do. It's still wintertime, so I'm staying with wintry things. I love this recipe, friends. This is this is homemade sloppy joes. Extra sloppy joe. Homemade sloppy joe. You know, you get the can, but these is homemade and they're so much better. All right, here's what you need. 1.5 pounds of extra lean ground beef. It says extra lean, but I like to go what? Like when you look at the ground beef package, I like to go what? Like 80% lean and the other fat. So I want some fat in there in that ground beef. 20% fat when you're looking at the ground beef. It just makes stuff like this good. Okay, so that says extra lean, but Tia's saying get it with a little bit of fat in there. Half onion diced, 2 cloves garlic minced, 1 green pepper diced, 1 cup of water, 3/4 cup of ketchup, 1 dash Worcestershire sauce, 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. This recipe's good, right? 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. Already said that. 2 tablespoons brown sugar. 1 teaspoon of Dijon mustard. 1.5 teaspoons salt or to taste. Half teaspoon of ground pepper. 1 cup of another cup of water, because I said a cup of water up the top, but you'll see why. And a pinch of cayenne. My mom loves spicy, but she's getting more as she's getting in her golden years. She can't do too much spicy. So I oftentimes can't put the pinch of cayenne in there. Even that little bit affects her. So what you do, you place your ground beef and your onion in a skillet. Brown them up. Turn the heat and cook until stir the mixture constantly until the beef gets browned and forms, break it up, break it up, break it up. About 10 minutes. Stir in garlic. Did I say the garlic? I missed the garlic. 2 cloves of garlic minced. Yeah. Stir in your garlic and your green pepper. Cook until softened, about 2 minutes. Add that 1 cup of water. Scraping that pan, get all them good brownie bits off the bottom and add it in. Mix in your ketchup, Worcestershire sauce. Add that in. Brown sugar, Dijon mustard, your salt and pepper. And then add 1 cup of water and return the mixture to a simmer. I just want to make sure I explain why you added that cup of water earlier. Because of the ketchup and all of that, you're mixing again. Add 1 cup of water and return the mixture to a simmer. Reduce heat to low and simmer, stirring occasionally until the liquid has evaporated. And the mixture is thick. It'll get thick about 40 minutes. Season with salt and pepper and the cayenne pepper. That is a good sloppy joe, my friends. It's really, really good. And later I'll add one more recipe, another favorite. Uh, and I like to toast my hamburger bun. And I learned from a dear, dear friend of mine. I put a little mayonnaise on my toasted bun. And then I put my sloppy joe mix on there. Yummy. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Yes. Hope you enjoyed that. You got jokes, you got recipes. 2025, we're going to do it. So I always, like I said, this podcast started with because of my dad having Parkinson's. So I always like to share tidbits and talk to the Parkinson's community. And there's so many Parkinson's groups, and one of the groups, a lady was asking about her husband. She was asking about dehydration, and and how Parkinson's affects dehydration and dizziness and blood pressure and just the meds. And I will say that my dad, like I said, he did mostly. We were very blessed. He walked and he lived a fruitful life with the Parkinson's. It wasn't always easy. I'm not saying that, but we did notice the dehydration was it was big some days, especially in the summer. We're down here in the south and it's so hot. So, and I did read different places where it looks like Parkinson's does bring on some dehydration. So he would he would some days before we noticed that it the dehydration, because we would literally go outside and he would just pass out. And so it was he was stubborn at first. When he got up in the morning, I'd go in there and meet him in the morning, and I'd just have a big cup of water, like a big gulp type cup, and we'd just sit there and chat, and he'd sip this water, and I'd make him. I pretty much made him. At first, he fought me. Oh, it was terrible. He was so stubborn about it. And but then once I was determined, I was like, "Look, Dad, this is big. You got to drink this." And I put a little bit of power in there in the water, Powerade in the water too. Sometimes I had to be careful with the Powerade because he did have high blood pressure, and it would if you gave him too much of Powerade, it would jack up his blood pressure. So I only put a pinch in there, and he noticed he felt better after drinking this big cup. It was a big gulp type of cup. And he felt better and he had less dehydration when we go out. So he knew that he felt better and he stopped fighting me. So every morning that was a ritual that we do. He would just sip that and sip that. And sometimes your parents can get stubborn, but he did he did notice he felt better, and we actually, it became a beautiful thing. We'd sit and we'd chat while he was sipping that. He took his time and we'd talk about what we're going to do that day. And it became quite beautiful. And that brings me to the exercise with Parkinson's, my friends. It's a miracle worker, the exercise. And if you could start with a little bit at a time, if you're not working out, it's hard to start. My dad was avid work. He worked out before the Parkinson's, so he loved going to the gym, and he worked out. So, and it's proven that going to the gym, just walking and ride, if you can ride that stationary bike, he did that, and it pushed through those Parkinson's symptoms. In every podcast, I shout it from the rooftops: exercise, exercise, exercise is the key. So if you can just start even with a little walking, if you now I've seen these commercials where you can get those little, if you're like, I never work out, so it's hard to start. They have these little exercise where your feet just ride the bike while you're sitting. Exercise, ellipse things. I'm gonna get my mom one actually. Just start with a little bit. If you just walk a little bit, 5 minutes, just get started. It is the key to living a fruitful life with Parkinson's. And yeah, it matters. I always share that a lot of the big important thing is my dad was on the yellow pill, we call it. Um, ugh, on the tip of my tongue. The mm, liv, liv, levodopa. Yeah, that's a paraphrase version for Parkinson's. Levodopa. It was a yellow pill. You Parkinson's folks know about it. That medication he would take on an empty stomach, and it absorbed better on an empty stomach. That's how we started this podcast, because we noticed in the beginning it wasn't absorbing properly. So we would wake him up at 5 o'clock, let him drink and take that levodopa, and he would sleep for another couple hours, and he'd get up, but it would absorb, and he was able to not have any tremors as much doing that, letting the levodopa absorb 2 hours before eating on an empty stomach. And we do it at lunch. He wouldn't eat lunch. We give him the second levodopa after he had his breakfast. We'd wait a couple hours and give him his levodopa. We'd wait another couple hours before he'd have lunch. 2 hours before you eat, take the levodopa. It works better. And a lot of Parkinson's patients don't realize the doctor will say that, but they don't explain it like we found out the hard way about letting the levodopa absorb properly. And every podcast I'll share all these different things to the Parkinson's community. If you are listening, where you're listening to this podcast, please subscribe. When you look at this page up the top, it looks like a Wi-Fi type of icon. You click that, and that's how you subscribe, and it'll alert you when I'm doing a new podcast. And I'm going to try to do newer things and keep this going through 2025. Hey, we got to keep the joy, the laughter. That's why I do the recipes, because gathering around friends, that's another thing that we did for my dad to keep his spirits up. Family come around a lot, family and friends. And food brings family together, and that's when I started sharing the recipes. Podcasts, in the previous podcast, I have my brother and family cooking in the kitchen with my dad, and that would just bring him joy. Joy, 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 my friends, is all a part of this whole thing. So let's do this joy in 2025. Please subscribe to me, Mom and Dad. I'll try to bring Mom on some of these podcasts in 2025, and some of my other friends too. And keep your spirits up, everybody. My dad was a pastor. We're trusting in God always for everything, for hope and peace and joy, that everything's going to be all right, my friends. Right? And again, Parkinson's people, not just Parkinson's community, me too. Exercise, exercise, exercise is the key. We got to do it. Enjoy 2025. I'll hope to see you on the next podcast. Okay, my friends? Oh, I was going to do a third recipe. Oopsie. Next time I'll make sure I do it. I was going to do the famous hot cakes, homemade pancakes. Aren't you mad at me? Enjoy the music, my friends. Happy 2025. Let's do it. Let's keep laughing. Joy, joy, joy. Enjoy the music.